Hello everyone, Tibbs316 here. Welcome to my next review in the Iron Maiden collection, so to speak, the discography. The last time we did their most famous album, The Number of the Beast, the one that made them international superstars and brought them a lot of flack at the same time, which is probably one of the reasons why they became so popular, because everyone wanted to hear it, the Catholic Church is burning their records, we gotta go out and buy 10,000 of them. At this point, even though they were really successful, Clive Burr, for whatever reason, it's never been made. I've never heard Steve Harris talk about it really, just Clive. But they decided that they weren't really satisfied with his drumming anymore. He was a very good drummer, very, very tight. But a change, as far as they were concerned, needed to be made. And the change was indeed made in the late 92, early 93, 83. And it was a change for the better because they got one of the most eccentric, over the top, crazy people you'll ever meet, Nico McBrain, to be their drummer. Not only is he a character, but he's one of the most fantastic drummers I've ever heard in my life. And I've seen him play live twice now, and this film it's amazing the stuff that man can do. He has a huge kit and he plays every single bit of it. And like I said, he's a character. You watch any interview with him and you're laughing the whole time. The next album is the 1983, I'd like to say, dark masterpiece, Piece of Mind. This album, in many ways, is considered to be the darkest of their albums in terms of the subject matter. Just the whole tone of it kind of has a little bit of darkness to it. And of course, the image is one of Eddie's most iconic images, being in the straitjacket with the, I don't know if you can see, the lobotomy. And apparently, originally they wanted to call it Food for Thought, but thankfully, they changed it to Peace of Mind. And I'm such a Maiden fan that when I had to write the word peace, as in peace, baby, I actually wrote peace instead. And they actually called the tour for this album the World Peace Tour, actually. This is a fantastic album, and it often gets overlooked by the mainstream media because Number of the Beast is the only one that, the mainstream rock audience remembers. But Maiden fans like me will tell you that throughout the rest of the 80s, with this particular lineup, Dickinson, Harris, Murray, Smith, and McBrain, they were unstoppable. I mean, Metallica also had a fantastic run of great albums from the 80s into the 90s, but Maiden just killed it. For the rest of the decade, they were without a doubt the best metal band in the world, and that's my opinion. But if you listen to these albums, I think that might change your mind. So, Peace of Mind, let's start this off. Where Eagles Dare. Nico joins the group, right? And this song has a perfect example of his drumming technique. The first few seconds of this song has the most incredible drum flurry you'll ever hear. And it continues going throughout the whole song. The rhythm is it's incredible. And he only uses a single bass pedal too. So I have no idea. I remember when I was a kid, I used to think, oh, drumming, maybe I could do that. You're just using, two hands. When I found out that you control the hi-hat with one foot and the bass with the other foot, I was like, how the hell do they do it? Because you got to keep the rhythm with all four extremities, and especially the speeds, the tempo, and the complexity that he plays. It's amazing. And having him and Steve together is incredible because Nico's even said that working with Steve Harris as the bassist, and Steve also composes all these things too. So Nico has to kind of think outside the box and not play straight. I mean, there are a few songs that he plays just kind of a straight 4/4 on, but for the most part, he tries to come up with the most complex and interesting drum beats he can. And like I said, until 2004, I think, he didn't use a double bass. So you keep that in mind when you listen to some of these songs. And Where Eagles Dare is it's very much like I think it's supposed to be World War II, or just in general any type of flying, like the attack planes dropping bombs and stuff. There's even some sound effects of guns going off. Like I said, Maiden were fantastic when talking about classic war. For better or for worse, whether you like war or not, Maiden could take it and make it just incredibly epic. Then Revelations, which is a song evoking images of religion, the Bible, such things as that. And interesting fact, a few years back, when Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull, another fantastic band whose albums I might review someday, although that'll take a lot longer because there's dozens of them, he was doing a concert at a church. I think it was a charity show around Christmas time, and Bruce, I think kind of on the spot because he was still in his street clothes, stopped by and they sang Revelations together. And had I been in that audience, I would have had a nerdgasm because that would have been like, wow. And yes, my polka girl is sitting here right next to me. I asked her if she wanted to be involved, and she's like, "Oh, I don't know if I could contribute much, but she will be able to in a second, perhaps." So this song is fantastic, and it contains one of the best. Like Bruce Dickinson is amazing at working the crowd, and that part that goes da 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 da, he would always get the crowd to go. And when they would perform at Rock in Rio a couple years later, in front of like, what was it, 200, 300,000 people, the sea of people when he would do that and the lights would go up is incredible. Up next is Poke Girl's personal favorite song on the album, Flight of Icarus. It's a song about of course, the Greek myth of Icarus. She knows a little bit more about it than I do. All I really know is he dared to fly, so he made himself, was it wings made of wax, and they would burn up when he tried to get close to the sun, and he fell to his death. And the song, right? I'm right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the song captures into that, and it has one of Bruce's best like screams in it. It's fantastic. It was one of the first Maiden songs I ever really got into, and it contains a great music video. It was a single from this album. Fantastic song, and has just a good old fashioned beat that. She loves when I rock out, don't you?
It's cute.
It's cute. So, I love that girl. Say bye to everyone. She just got to finish recording Pokemon Snap, so she's still tired from all that Pokemon hunting. Up next is "Die with Your Boots On," which is and again another song about war and about the evil people that make it. She's checking to make sure I get these right, although, trust me, I know these albums. There's only one album where I might have to look, because there's so many. There's a phrase in war and in the military called "dying with your boots on." I believe what that means is you go down fighting. And this song, like I said, is about kind of the evil people that make war and stuff like that. Again, there are so many songs about war that Maiden does. It kind of over time might seem like I'm kind of glossing over them, but it's only because there isn't a whole lot to say about some of these songs, but some of them, yes, some of them get, especially later on. In more recent years, I feel like they've kind of delved back into that, like Passchendaele type stuff, which I'll have a lot to say about that song when that happens. With this song, though, "Die With Your Boots On" has one of my favorite intros to any guitar solo on any of their songs. The way the solo starts it's so full of emotion, and the Maiden guitar sound is incredible. I know I use the word incredible and awesome and spectacular and all that stuff, but it's true. I'm such a Maiden fan. These videos are going to be half me gushing over how much I love them. Now, the next song is one that anyone watching this, unless you're only watching it because you like me, will know. Right there. The Trooper. What can be said about The Trooper that hasn't been said before? It's one of their most popular songs. To the best of my knowledge, they have performed it at every single show they've ever done since this album's release. It was a hit single, at least on the metal charts, and to this day remains. There is no other song they do that gets the crowd going like this one. I know from experience. I've seen it perform twice, and just "The Trooper" when he does that, it's incredible. The crowd explodes, and they come on stage, and Bruce has the big, the red coat and a Union Jack that he's flying around. And what's interesting is that whenever bands or athletic teams go to another country and the other country's flag is held high, I've always noticed there can be some disrespect that people, for whatever reason, like to levy against the other country's flag, especially in sports. I think it's that competition thing, which is a crock. You should show respect, as I always do. But whenever Bruce would bring out the Union Jack, no matter where they are, the fans don't care. The fans just love it, and that they just eat it up, including me. And it's awesome too, because Bruce would stand up on the riser and wave the flag while he sings. And Steve, Dave, Adrian, and now Yannick would stand up front with their guitars and their legs up. So cool. And the song is about, I want to say World War One, because it's about fighting the Russians. So it's probably World War One, especially that term trooper. It could be World War Two though, because Russia was involved in that too, I think. But out of all the wars, Maiden really loves to go back to World War One, because I think his father actually served in one of the world wars. I think, because Bruce actually has some of his medals and stuff like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Bruce, he's definitely a war buff. He loves to collect all that stuff. And funny, interesting fact, Bruce is actually a fencing pro, I believe, and a licensed pilot, and he's the one that actually flies them around now, which is so cool. Up next is Still Life, maybe the most underrated song on the album that no one ever talks about anymore. It starts off with Nico, at least it sounds like him talking backwards, like backwards speech. It's really interesting. I'll have to look it up. I don't know what he's saying, but it sounds cool. And I don't have a record, so I can't spin it backwards. I wouldn't be surprised if they did it as a response to those who claim they were Satanists because backwards speech is work of the devil or some shit like that. This song, this is the song I mean when I say the album's very dark. It's basically like a song about like being drawn down into the depths by the dead or into hell, like having a nightmare that something is pulling you towards it, and telling someone, presumably the one you love, or just maybe the audience, whoever's listening, that eventually they're going to get to you too. It paints an amazing picture, and one of the guitar solos in this song, because there's like two or three of them, is the stuff of nightmares. I think it's the last guitar solo. The way it ends is like something out of the most devilish nightmare you can imagine. And if I was in a darkened room, well, she just looked up what Nico. I'm sure I looked this up before, but she just looked up what Nico said. Let's see. Oh, interesting. Apparently, this is an impersonation of Idi Amin, who I believe was the president of Uganda at one point. And it says, what host? I don't know. Apparently, it might be like, what are you doing? Show them. Oh, I don't know if you could see, but you can look it up yourself. I'm not exactly sure. Oh yeah, it says it essentially means what Ho said the monster with the three heads don't meddle with things you don't understand. The message is mainly intended for the religious bigots who would condemn the band as devil worshippers. See? I was right. I just didn't know. See, that's why she's here. She's kind of like the proofreader of these, maybe. But anyway, really spooky song. Very good. If I made a horror movie and I wanted to put some of their songs in it, that would be in there. Up next is Quest for Fire, which is lyrically one of my favorite songs on the album. It's a song about when the dinosaurs were around millions of years ago, and when there were still when the cavemen were around, when humans were first discovering the world around them, and how they would fight wars over fire. The fact that the discovery of fire, if you think, was probably the first big discovery that man found, a way to cook, a way to keep themselves warm, to help themselves survive. And the fact that they would go to war over fire. If you made a fire and someone else came and wanted it, even though theoretically anyone could make fire, they didn't realize that, and the song even mentions that, because they didn't know. So they would clash, and it was a journey just to find more fire. It's pretty amazing when you think about it, and it's just a great song in general. Then there's Sun and Steel, which, again, about fighting, about the sword, the sun gleaming off your sword. I mean, the pride of it, and the love of it, the love of fighting and combat, and just, again, if I misinterpret any of these songs, please feel free, but most of them are pretty clear-cut what they're about. And I think all songs have some allowance for interpretation of what you think they're about, what they mean to you. And some of Bruce's most gorgeous vocals on this album are in this song, and it's usually what I look forward to the most when I hear it. Plus, it just has this just back in those days, Maiden was so good at those driving, chugging, rhythms. To end the album is another Maiden epic, although a little bit shorter than the previous epic, and definitely what's coming on the next album. And this is To Tame a Land. This song is basically about any type of ruler. I think kind of like ancient Egypt pharaohs. I think it's supposed to specifically be about. It might specifically supposed to be about someone, maybe King Tut. I'm not sure, but anyone that is in control of the land, control of the people, and just this song goes through so many different emotional feels. And one of the best bass lines I've ever heard Steve play. Steve Harris, his bass is usually pretty raw, pretty chunky. I mean, he plays it with all four fingers and his thumb at the same time. I have no idea how he does it. My fingers just get tired after a few seconds of this. But in this song, this album in general, the bass sounds extremely clean. And I don't know if that was a choice or if that's just how it turned out, but especially on this song, it's like doom, 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 doom. It sounds so beautiful. It really does. And what's interesting is in a lot of these songs, he can not only play it clean, but he can also kind of, I swear, it sounds like two different basses are playing at the same time. And I think what that is him picking with his fingers and his thumb at the same time. It just blows my mind how good he is. And he's been playing the same exact bass guitar, I think, for over 30 years now. It's pretty cool. But this song, fantastic way to end the album. In those days, Maiden loved to end their albums with some sort of epic story or tale, using the music for more than just a good sound, using it to tell an emotional story that you will always remember. And that's what this song is to me. That's what the whole album is to me. This whole album it's like an emotional journey, and it carries you through to dark places. But you just want to keep going back because it's so captivating. Really, really awesome. Now, with that said, after this album, they would perform at the legendary, I want to say it was in Germany. They played at this really, it wasn't Monsters of Rock, but they played, I think it was like the biggest show that they had ever played at up until that point. So at this point, they were really becoming popular around the world. Their albums were selling like crazy. They were in demand all over the world, and their tours would be like 100 dates, 200 dates. The Portland, they'd come here every year. It was amazing. They'd play everywhere. If you're a Maiden fan and you could travel back in time, this would probably be the best time, not only because they already had two fantastic legendary albums under their belt, but they were about to make another one. The Number of the Beast is often considered to be the pinnacle of classic Iron Maiden, but to many Maiden fans, the best they ever did, the best single disc they ever did back during their heyday was the next album, which we will be covering next time, and that is the legendary album Power Slave, which is right behind me. Come on, thumb, right there. If you thought the albums they've done up until this point were fantastic, and don't get me wrong, they would step it up probably farther than they ever had before on the next one. They just kept topping themselves in the 80s. It's truly amazing. I mean, the first album, great classic, but very underrated by today's standards. Second album is mostly forgotten by everyone except Maiden fans, but still awesome. The Beast, absolutely legendary, often voted the greatest heavy metal album of all time. Peace of Mind, again, that album is also on top several lists. I mean, all their albums for the 80s pretty much would be on anyone's top 10. But Power Slave just takes it to the next level. And I will talk all about it in the next video. So, I'm Tibbs316.
I'm Poke Girl 2017.
Hey, she contributed. I have to give her some credit, right? Thanks, everyone. I'll see you in the next one. Up the irons! Let's see you do it. She's so cute. First metal show I ever took her to was Slayer. She would go like this. By the end, she was headbanging and everything. All right, take care, everyone. See you next time.